Today marks 5 years since a Denison woman was struck and killed by a car. Her death sparked a fight for justice by family and thousands of others.
News 12's Talia Munson joins us live in the studio tonight to explain. Talia.
That's right, Jeff and Caroline. 5 years ago today, KXII Palmer, a school teacher and mother of two, lost her life when she and her husband John were hit by a truck while taking a walk. John spoke with me today about that life-changing morning and his continuous fight for justice.
Today marks the worst day of my life. 5 years ago today.
On April 21st, a morning walk in their Denison neighborhood turned to a nightmare when John Palmer and his wife KXII were struck by a driver in a pickup truck. The impact broke John's back. KXII was flown to a hospital for head trauma.
Hey John, is that your wife? What's her name?
She was declared dead just hours after. The driver was their neighbor.
My wife was killed, and the person that killed her, Corey Todd Foster, has yet to be held accountable for his actions.
At the scene of the crash, Foster passed a breathalyzer test with a .06. The legal limit is .08. DPS did not request a warrant to test Foster's blood alcohol level. A few months later, a grand jury decided not to indict him, but KXII's family took action, bringing the fight for justice to the state capitol.
We fought for KXII. We've gotten bills passed, so we've made an impact statewide. We've made great change here in Grayson County, and we will continue to fight for KXII, fight for justice, and demand accountability.
A Texas law passed in 2021 requires any driver who seriously injures or kills a pedestrian to submit a blood alcohol test. John says the fight isn't finished.
KXII would be proud. KXII deserves justice. I wish we could have done this a different way. I wish she was still with us every day.
The family has filed a civil suit against Corey Foster that goes to trial in December. The Justice for KXII Palmer Facebook page now has over 20,000 followers. John says the lead trooper on the initial scene was reassigned, and he won't stop fighting until Foster is held accountable.
An indictment over 5 years in the making. The man behind the wheel of the pickup that killed a Denison teacher, wife, and mother now faces a charge of manslaughter. KXII 12's Taylor Brooks is at the Grayson County Justice Center with the very latest. Taylor?
Yes, Jeff, for 5.5 years, John Palmer has been fighting for justice for his wife, KXII, after she was killed while they were walking in their Denison neighborhood in 2020. Now, later that year, a grand jury declined to file any charges against Corey Foster, who was the man driving the pickup truck that struck and killed her. But today, John tells me that news of an indictment is bringing them closer to justice. 5.5 years ago, John Palmer lost the love of his life.
The man that killed her was not held accountable at all.
That man is Corey Foster, who hit John and his wife when they were on a walk in their Denison neighborhood, ultimately killing KXII Palmer. And for half a decade, John's life has been an endless fight for justice.
When you love somebody, stopping is never an option. And we didn't stop. And we'll always love you, KXII Palmer. And we'll keep fighting for you from now until forever.
Wednesday, Corey Foster was indicted on a charge of manslaughter by a Grayson County grand jury.
This is a situation where justice is long overdue, even regardless of what happens from this point. In my opinion, it should have reached this point a long time ago.
A sentiment echoed by Palmer.
And I believe this is the first time in 5.5 years that he's been held accountable in the slightest bit for killing my wife.
The case still has a ways to go.
Will then be put on the docket for a first appearance, and it'll just go through a number of pretrial steps. It will eventually find its way to a trial docket. Exactly how far down the road that is, hard to guess.
But the family of KXII is just grateful to see movement in the case.
Our family is forever grateful for the hard work that our district attorney, John Kermit Hill, the prosecutors and the investigators, and everybody involved in this case put in.
But no amount of justice can replace KXII.
There still is not a day that goes by where KXII is not the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I go to sleep.
Continuing to fight and honor her.
And we'll always love you, KXII Palmer.
District Attorney Hill says that this is an indictment and just that none of this should be used as evidence of guilt. And of course, all are presumed innocent until proven guilty. We will have more details on this case later tonight at 10. In Grayson County, Taylor Brooks, KXII 12.
A grand jury has now indicted Corey Foster on a charge of manslaughter in the death of Denison teacher KXII Palmer. KXII and her husband John were out for a morning walk in April of 2020 when they were hit by a truck. John was severely injured. KXII was killed. A grand jury in 2020 decided not to bring charges against Foster. However, new District Attorney John Kermit Hill made a campaign promise to revisit this case when he took office. The husband of KXII Palmer says he has not and will not stop fighting for justice.
When you love somebody, stopping is never an option, and we didn't stop. And we'll always love you, KXII Palmer, and we'll keep fighting for you from now until forever.
Over the past 5 years, Palmer's family has given countless hours to the Justice for KXII movement. Their work changed state law. KXII 12's Austin Hedgecock joins us in the studio tonight, taking us from April of 2020 to the present. Austin?
Jeff, let's start at the very beginning. On a dewy spring morning in April of 2020, when husband and wife John and KXII Palmer set out for a stroll from which only John would make it home.
The Denison couple was hit from behind by a truck driven by their neighbor, Corey Foster. The impact broke John's ribs and killed KXII.
Hey, John, is that your wife? What's her name?
Reviewing the body cam footage from that day, you can hear officers talking about the strong smell of alcohol on Foster's breath.
I'm smelling it pretty strong coming from your breath.
He did take a field sobriety test, and 50 minutes after the accident, he blew a .06 blood alcohol level, which is below the legal limit. His blood was never drawn, and the breathalyzer test can't be used in court. Foster blamed the crash on the morning sun.
I just couldn't see because the glare was so bad.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't have driven.
In the months that followed, a Grayson County grand jury declined to indict Foster on charges of manslaughter or criminally negligent homicide, at the same time as John Palmer filed a wrongful death suit in civil court. For the next year, KXII's family and the community pushed for changes in the law. At the time of her death, officers could use their own judgment when deciding whether to test a driver's blood alcohol level. But after a big push from the Justice for KXII movement, HB 558 was signed into law in June of 2021. Now, officers at the scene of a crash that seriously injures or kills a pedestrian must draw blood from the driver. That blood will then be screened for drugs or alcohol. And just months after the law changed, new body cam video was released that John Palmer argues should have been used as evidence.
But right when I come up and I saw it was him, I was like, yeah, he's probably drunk.
He said the same thing. He said that, that dude's always drunk.
Fast forward to 2024, District Attorney Brett Smith, who was in charge at the time of KXII's death, announced a bid for re-election. Members of his team then resigned, citing frustration with Smith's labeling of the case a dead horse.
That dead horse issue is in fact a dead woman, and her name is KXII Palmer.
In that election, John Kermit Hill would go on to beat Smith and become the new district attorney, running on a platform promising to revisit the case. Now, as the DA, Hill indeed brought the case back and secured a grand jury indictment on one count of manslaughter. Hill adds that an indictment should not be considered evidence of guilt and that all charged with the crime are presumed innocent until proven guilty. We'll continue to follow this case as it moves through the court. Jeff?